Celtic now on the right, led by Billy McNeil. They play as if they're playing for themselves, for the manager, and for these supporters that have come all these thousands of miles to see them. Then away we go for the 12th European Cup final. Capellini, a penalty, he's given it, it's 1-0 for Inter. Building on, and obviously just taking on Inter. They're trying to end the ice age of defensive European football. Celtic coming forward, attacking football all the time. Inter just defending. In comes Craig. Gabriel, he's scored a great goal! He's done it! 5 minutes left now. 1 goal each. Murdoch. It's there! Celtic has scored! And without a doubt, the European Cup is on its way to Glasgow.
You are welcome along to a special edition of the Huddle Breakdown, where Alan and I have a look at the 1967 European Cup final, as if it just happened yesterday. Alan, we're gonna pretend as if this is a kind of standard Huddle Breakdown game review, to have some fun, to celebrate the game, to celebrate the Lisbon Lions. And maybe use some of these newfangled, crazy spreadsheet shagging techniques that we deploy these days, and have some fun with how they may have applied back then. So we've been talking about doing this for a while, and we're finally getting around to doing it. So really look forward to this. So let me just start by asking you, because you're a far more adept historian than myself. Not as if either of us are really historians, but have the experiential life experience of watching the game evolve during your life.
Just say, James, older. You're trying to say older.
Well, no,
that's
not
what
that.
That's
Not
what you're
just
trying
that.
to say.
Not just simple, because you're not that much older than me. But I didn't grow up consuming this stuff like you did. So there's a natural inclination that you have just experientially as far as how the game's evolved from your childhood, even. So how did you kind of, when you rewatch this game and do it through the, give it the 6 hour, or this, you can get into how this might have been 30 hours. We'll get the Alan Morrison experience of data capturing the 67 Cup final. Like what jumped out to you as far as the state of football at that point, which we get into, but this iteration of football at that point was on the cutting edge, in the sense of that's why the Lisbon Lions were and Jock Stein were so revolutionary. Was their part in history of being more attacking and progressive. So what was your takeaways from a high level and kind of compare and contrast modern football versus capturing the data from that game?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we wanted to cover this because there is no intent or aim here to kind of be in any way, disrespectful, because you're watching a game from, nearly, 50 years ago, or more than 50 years ago, etc. So football was obviously different. Some of the laws were different, etc. as well. The level of athleticism, etc. was different. But, well, but it's interesting. It's interesting to contrast, and also, let's never forget where this game has in terms of its place in the history of world football, right? So, Jonathan Wilson wrote the seminal book on football, the evolution of football, sort of the tactical side of the game, in inverting the pyramid, and there is a place in that book for the Lisbon Lions, really. So that is, it was, as you said, seminal. The football of that time, especially the way that the Italian teams had started to almost take over from the Real Madrid and the Benficas that had dominated the European Cup in its early years, and they'd done so through quite defensive, negative football. And you see the Inter Milan lineup, and nominally it's a 4-3-3, as we might call it, but really, in practice, first of all, both teams actually have a sweeper. Now, a sweeper is just not something you see in modern football at all, right? But that was perfectly normal to have a sweeper. The sweeper was a centre back that sat behind the other defenders, and their job was to cover anything that went in behind. So it's kind of, but also they could move up quickly and coordinate the offside trap as well. And they were generally players that were good on the ball because they would probably be the initial ball carrier in the team and good with passes. So both teams have got sweepers. Then you have the sort of hybrid of these days we're all about with the ball, how our team's progressing it. Lots of passing, lots of control for your Celtic, lots of long ball, etc. And actually, this game is actually in that sense very similar to many games in Scotland where you had Inter Milan who essentially were playing long ball football. They were just getting the ball in defence and they would launch it, and they'd have three players on the break trying to get on the end of it, and the other seven were defending. Well, because they were 1 goal up. You see, they're 1-0 up, and as far as the norms of the time, once an Italian team got 1-0 up, that's kind of what you did. So that side of it is kind of normal. But then you've got Celtic with this effectively a 4-2-4 formation, which was probably the first time that it's used and at club level, achieved success. It's such a high level. But it's a formation that the Brazilians famously use and go on to use in the '70 World Cup. But again, all of these things have variants. But there's very little pressing as we would understand it, and there's very little. We always talk about, when you watch these games, is it a low block, a mid block, a high block, etc. There's nothing really like that. Such the game is incredibly stretched.
We hope you enjoyed this free preview from all of us here at the Huddle Breakdown. We know you have options and we really appreciate you tuning in. To hear the rest of this episode and for much more Huddle Breakdown content, head on over to www.huddlebreakdown.com. We hope you consider subscribing. Thank you.